Hey everyone, welcome to day 10 of my 30-day project. Today I wanted to talk about the Vikings Vengeance event. I did not want to do live gameplay because I don't want to show all of the secrets that we have for my alliance, but I did want to go over generally how this event works. So Vikings Vengeance is an alliance cooperative event where your entire alliance gets attacked by Vikings. The Vikings will spawn close to your headquarters on the map. So if you go to your map and you go down to your headquarters, or you go to wherever your headquarters is, typically Vikings will spawn somewhere in that area that is your headquarters. If your headquarters is surrounded by your alliance, it will spawn in a spot close to where your alliance headquarters is. There are 20 waves. 5 of them are kind of online only waves. Those waves are 7, 14, and 17, which are explicitly only going to be Vikings going to players who are online. And then there's wave 10 and 20, which is going to the headquarters for your alliance. And I call that an online wave because if people aren't online and actively swapping between garrisoning a teammate and going to the headquarters, they're not getting very good points, so they should not consider reinforcing the headquarters if they are not planning on being online the whole time. So let's discuss the Vikings Vengeance, methods of play. So these are the reports for the Vikings Vengeance battle. If you go down to level 1, you can see that the enemies are not very good. So this is the highest difficulty 21, and you're only seeing 23,000 enemies of the tier 2 or tier 1 variety. So you're not getting a whole lot of enemies to begin with. So the very beginning of the event is extremely easy, to say the least. Then when you get up to wave 4, you're looking at 98,000 troops, but even then it's only tier 3 and tier 2. So wave 7 is one of those online only waves, and I want to show you a little bit about what's so special about these online only waves. These are going to be like your biggest point waves. One of the main reasons is you can see they're sending 283,000 troops here. I mean, it's still pretty weak because it's only wave 7. So even though they're sending what is essentially a full march, they're only tier 4 and tier 3 troops. But if we scroll back a bit and we go to like level 6, they're sending 199,000 of also tier 4 and tier 3. So it's like they're not sending you a whole lot more troops, but look, this is only worth 26,550 points for the player who defended their city, whereas this one's worth 60,180 points for the person who defended their city. Now, these defense points for the person whose city it's at, so like this location was my city. I did not get any kills. I got 60,180 defense points. Let me see if I can find somebody who was potentially having troops at home. I don't think anybody I reinforced had troops at home. No, nobody did. So like, that's a huge point difference between 6 and 7. And then even from 7 to 8, 8 only goes up to 33,630. So you're getting a whole lot more points on these online waves than you were getting if you're not online. So even this one's 37,000. So like wave 7 was basically the same as wave 8 plus wave 9. So you get a lot of points by being online for the event. Now, this doesn't mean you have to actively be online. The game doesn't care if you're actively clicking around. It doesn't care if your phone is just sitting on a table somewhere with a charger and the game is just open. As long as you're online for the event and the game sees you online, you're going to get that wave 7, wave 14, and wave 17 come into your city, and those are worth so much points. I mean, probably a third of the event is just those 3 waves for your points. And then there's wave 10, which is the headquarters. We didn't have too many people join the headquarters, so some of us kind of just put a bunch of troops in there, just try to get some points. The headquarters itself, it's worth 1 point per marauder, or 596,000 points for wave 10. So we got all of our points for there, and that's split between everybody that's in there. People who kill more enemies get more points. Typically wave 10, all you need is infantry units. So don't send anything other than infantry. And for all these people you're garrisoning, you want to send them infantry before anything else, cavalry before archer, and then archer as a last resort. I do not have enough troops in my city to send to send 6 people a full complement of infantry or a full complement of cavalry. So what I tend to do is I'll divide this 552,825 by 6 because I have 6 marches, and I'll send each person about 92,000 infantry. I'll divide that 252,000 by 6. I'll send everybody, approximately 42,000 cavalry, and then I'll fill in the rest with archers. So I'm not sending them only infantry, or I'm not sending them only cavalry, I'm not sending them only archer, but if I did have enough infantry to do only infantry, I would. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this, because infantry are going to get kills before anyone else. I've talked in my former videos about how in the way combat works, your infantry attack first, then your cavalry, then your archers. This is the same for Vikings. So if the infantry get the job done, there's no need for cavalry or archers. If the infantry and cavalry get the job done, there's no need for archers. So archers don't get a bulk of the points in this event. Your infantry gets most of the points, and then your cavalry cleans up after them for the most part. In the event that somebody doesn't have great hero skill bonuses, and you're on like the last couple waves of the level 21 of the event, you might have some archers coming in to help clean up a little bit, but typically you're not going to. So like here is the wave 20 in the HQ. You get about, I think this is worth, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people. So this is probably worth about 850,000 points. And there's 18 million Vikings that come after the base. Now, 18 million seems like a lot. I mean, that's like 18 rallies, for most people. And you can see here, that's a billion power that this Viking had. And it's all tier 10 and tier 9. So it's like they're not super weak Vikings. But at the stage of the game where you're unlocking difficulty 21, people should be like True Gold 5, True Gold 4 at the worst. If they're in like the higher echelons of your alliance. True Gold 3 or 2 if they're kind of in like the middle where they're just super active, and True Gold 1 at the very minimum if they're just inactive and kind of casual playing. So it's like, and this is the same thing. Like we mostly sent just a 50% march. We realized we weren't getting a full HQ, so some of us sent a couple more right before it hit at the end. But let me go to wave 17 and show you this as well. So wave 17 was worth 130,980 points for NJEP. And you see how he got some kills because the people who were reinforcing him did not do the job with just their infantry and their cavalry. But if you come over to someone like Red, she also got 130,980 defense points and way less kills. This is to show you that it doesn't matter how many kills the hosting city gets. They still get the same amount of defense points. As long as their city has a 100% loss rate for the Vikings. That's just up above the coordinates here, underneath where it says victory. So as long as you kill 100% of the Vikings, your city's getting 130,980 points. That being said, these kills that NJEP got, they were not killed by his infantry. If you go to NJEP and you look at what he had to kill people, he had cavalry and he had archers. So he had a little bit of cavalry at home still. And he had a little bit of archers at home still, and that's how he got some of his kill points. Was because he didn't have any infantry at home at all, but he did have a little bit of cavalry and archers at home, and they helped clean up his base for him. And then you come down to like Buck, me, like even me, like I only had archers at home, but I got some points too. Oh shoot, I need to go to me. So yeah, I only had archers at home. But you can't really get rid of all of your troops if you don't have enough space in your march, so you got to leave at least something at home, and I left archers. Now, just because I have kills and somebody like, shoot, let me go back, and somebody, damn it, and somebody like Buck doesn't, that does not mean that my base was weaker than his or anything like that. It just means that he had more people get points with their infantry and cavalry than I did. And actually, because most of the people in my rally sent me almost fully infantry, they didn't have as much damage dealers. See, like he had 1.6 million, or she, and this isn't the number of residents, sorry. So 6759, so they got probably a lot of the kills there. 163 and 24, so that was a lot of infantry, and there wasn't a whole lot of damage being dealt there. 66 and 66 probably got a bunch of the kills, and then 89 and 64. So they sent me a lot of infantry, and then when you go back to this one here and look at all the stuff here, like, 91, 42, 31. So they even had some archers there. 49, 50, 51. 116, 50. And then 40, 44. So his ratio of, infantry to cavalry was more of a 50-50 thing, whereas mine was more of like a 70-30 thing. So their cavalry did a lot of damage for him, even though he only had archers at home. Actually, he didn't have anything at home. Okay. So let's go to red and look at hers. Because she did get some kills, so she had something at home. So here we go. She had cavalry and archers at home. And then for their people, like I'm a 90-42. This is a 45-30. 77-78. And then 98-49. So a lot more cavalry than what was in my city. So my troops did jump in and do some damage, but also my archers are extremely strong, stronger than most other people. So like a single volley from my archers is going to do a lot of damage compared to the other people in my alliance. So my numbers, if you had a similar situation in my city as somebody else's city, these 1.5 million kills might be lower. It might be like 400,000 or 500,000. It wouldn't be 1.5 million. And that's just because that's my stats are a little higher and my archers are hitting a little harder, things like that. So you want to think about these things when you're reinforcing your allied cities. You want to make sure that you're putting more infantry than you are anything else to try and get those early points. But then once the later waves come, infantry aren't really going to cut it against 10 million, 20 million troops. So you want to probably get some cavalry in there too. That's why my particular, method of doing 1/6 of my troop size for both infantry and cavalry is what I tend to go with, and then I fill in the rest with archers. That way, at any given time, no matter what point in the battlefield it is, I have troops of every type in the city, and I'm still contributing to the person's fight. And you never want to have more than just archers at home in your city. If you can only get enough troops out that you're only going to be sending infantry and cavalry, that's fine. Keep your archers home. But don't send archers just to send archers. If, like, say you only have 100,000 march size and you have 6 marches. And say between your infantry and cavalry you have 600,000 troops exactly. Your entire Vikings event should be just infantry and cavalry going to your allies, and all of your archers should stay home. However, if you have a 600,000 infantry and cavalry together, and your march size is 150,000, you now have 250,000 extra troops. 300,000 extra troops that you can send as archers. And it's okay to send those extra 50,000 archers or whatever in your march to fill in the gaps, and that's perfectly fine. But you want to make sure that those infantry and cavalry are completely out of your base at the very minimum, because the closer you can get to 0 on both of those numbers, the more points your allies will get. Because the more often your kills are at 0, the more often you're not taking points away from your allies. Because like I said, it's 130, 980 right here for every single person for that wave. And it doesn't matter how many kills they got, but it matters to the people below them how many kills they got, because they're getting less points. Anyway, that was pretty much all I wanted to talk about. If you guys feel like you learned something, like and subscribe.